Hello, my name is Aaronetta and welcome to my channel where I love to talk about healthy, happy, holistic living, mind, body, and soul. And today we are going to tackle that mind because if you are anything like me, you love a juicy, scandalous read. And today we are talking about my most addictive reads, Scandalous Women edition. The criteria to get on the list. It has to be a female protagonist who acts very, very badly in a book that I just could not put down. I'm gonna bounce around age, read, and decade, and look, I can't promise that all of these books aged very well, but what I can promise is an absolutely delicious read. At least they were for me. I'm gonna let you know if I read them or listened to them audiobook form, and every book mentioned will be linked below. If you're into it, let's get to it. First up, we are gonna kick it off with The Queen of the South by Arturo Perez Reverte. The Amazon description. Teresa Mendoza's boyfriend is a drug smuggler who the narcos of Sinaloa, Mexico call the king of the short runway because he can get a plane full of coke off the ground in 300 yards. But in a ruthless business, life can be short, and Teresa even has a special cell phone that Guru gave her along with a dark warning. If that phone rings, it means he's dead, and she'd better run because they're coming for her next. Then the call comes. So, I had never heard of this book. I was renovating my old condo in Dallas and about to do some work, and I just needed an audiobook to get me by. And a friend of mine said that her favorite book of all time was The Queen of the South. And I was like, okay, cool, that'll do. I went and I got it, I think on CD. This was like early aughts, so yeah, I want to say that I got the audiobook on CD. I turned it on, and I listened to this thing 24/7. It is excellent. At the beginning of the book, you already know that Teresa is the Queen of the South. So you already know that she's this legend. And no spoilers because you have to read it, but there's a reason, a good reason that she's telling her story. And really it's a story of how she was this kind of little girl following around her Dylan boyfriend to becoming one of the most notorious women in the world in her industry. I would highly recommend it. And there is a series. The series, you know, they changed some things. So I think that if you watch the series, that's all good. I would still recommend that you read or listen to this book. But one bonus about the series is that if you watch season 1, you might catch me. I play Portia. Next, we're going classic with The Beautiful and the Damned by F. Scott Fitzgerald. The description. Here's the story of Harvard-educated aspiring aesthete. I had to look that up. It means a person who has or affects to have a special appreciation of art and beauty. Here is the story of Harvard-educated aspiring aesthete, Anthony Patch and his beautiful wife, Gloria. As they await the inheritance of his grandfather's fortune, their reckless marriage sways under the influence of alcohol and avarice, a devastating look at the nouveau riche and the New York nightlife, as well as the ruinous effects of wild ambition. The Beautiful and the Damned achieved stature as one of Fitzgerald's most accomplished novels. Its distinction as a classic endures to this day. So Fitzgerald and his wife Zelda were like the king and queen of a certain sector of the roaring 20s and the jazz age. And this book really shows that he knows what he's talking about. I mean, the way that he brings the ideals of that time to life is so vivid and so interesting and so, I mean, the details that he pays attention to, I really felt like I was like seeping in this story. It truly felt like I went on an emotional odyssey in this book and where Anthony and Gloria ended up. The thing is, this book almost didn't make the list because it is about Anthony and Gloria, and so not really a female protagonist. I mean, if I am honest, I would say that Anthony's page time takes up like a lion's share of the book. However, Gloria is on his mind all the time. And so I feel like she lives in this book from the beginning, and the way that she is introduced is just chef's kiss. It is actually, to this day, one of the most beautiful ways and interesting ways that I've ever seen a character be introduced. And then there's her character arc, because it's tragic, but it's tragic because of her goals and her outlook and her priorities. Like, it's so unnecessarily tragic. It's like you just watching this train crash, and you see how it can be stopped. You see how it can be stopped, but you know it's not gonna stop. It is, you know, I would want to say that the story is devastating, but it's not devastating. It's not a depressing read, but it's just so well done. And when they talk about how, you know, the ruinous effects of wild ambition, but it's a different kind of wild ambition. It's not what you think. It's not what you think. I would highly recommend The Beautiful and the Damned and welcome Gloria to the list. Trading Up by Candace Bushnell. The description. Modern-day heroine Janie Wilcox is a lingerie model whose reach often exceeds her grasp and whose newfound success has gone to her head. As we follow Janie's adventures, we're drawn into a seemingly glamorous world of $100,000 cars, hunky polo players, and media moguls. Fifth Avenue apartments and relationships whose hidden agendas are detectable only by the socially astute. But just as Janie enters this world of too much money and too few morals, unseen forces conspire to bring her down, forcing her to re-examine her values about love and friendship and how far she really is willing to go to realize her dreams. So, straight up, this book is about a gold digger. It's about a Victoria's Secret modeling gold digger who is doing her best to marry well, because she doesn't want to have to rely on walking down a runway in her thong for the rest of her life for money. That's a means to an end, not an end. For Janie, okay? For Janie. From the original Carrie Bradshaw herself, Candace Bushnell, who is the writer of the Sex and the City column that then became the phenomenon, that then became the movie and everything else we have today, and who herself was a New York City, or is, possibly is still, a New York City party girl, kind of like writing about her life and the things that she saw. And I read an interview from her, and she said that the thing that attracted her to this story was because she knew so many women like Janie, and she wanted to kind of understand what made them tick. And I think that's very fascinating, especially reading the story, because Janie is brought to life. And I feel like I may even know a couple of women who have like a mindset kind of like Janie's. Kind of. I mean, Janie's pretty far out there. And one thing that Candace Bushnell is excellent writing about is like financial striving. I've read all of her books. Most of them I would recommend. And I would say an honorable mention for this list could be Fifth Avenue. Yeah, I'd say that. I'd say Fifth Avenue is also worth a read. That's a good honorable mention. But for this list, Janie Wilcox, welcome girl. Welcome, because she is everything. She hits all of that criteria. Next up, The Coldest Winter Ever by Sister Soldier. Y'all, this book, Woo! This book. Okay. The description. Let's just get to it. The description. I came busting into this world during one of New York's worst snowstorms, so my mother named me Winter. Ghetto-born, Winter is the young, wealthy daughter of a prominent Brooklyn drug-dealing family. Quick-witted, sexy, and business-minded, she knows and loves the streets like the curves of her own body. But when a cold winter wind blows her life in the direction she doesn't want to go, her street smarts and seductive skills are put to the test of a lifetime. Unwilling to lose, this ghetto girl will do anything to stay on top. And I mean anything, honey. Anything. So, at the time that I read this, I was traveling with the show, and all I would do was read. I would just like read, and it was time for me to have a new book. And I don't think that this had just came out, but it sure was a book that was like well known, that people would talk about a lot. But I didn't know if I wanted to read about like the daughter of a gold digger trying to get hers. I was like, I don't think I'm in the mood for that right now. But I couldn't find anything else, so I was like, all right, let me give it a chance. I think that I may have read that book all the way up until it was time for me to get into wardrobe to go on stage. Like all the way up to it. I mean, this thing like put a chokehold on my attention. It is absolutely captivating. Sister Soldier brings Winter to life in a way that I had just never experienced before. And her, much like The Beautiful and the Damned, her detail around the settings of her story and the way she brings the characters to life is just, oh man. Like I felt seeped in the story. Like I just felt so just entrenched in it. It was fantastic. And I told one of my friends about the books, and she was kind of like me. She was like, girl, I don't know if I want to read that. Child, she called me a couple of days later and was like, I cannot put it down. I cannot put this book down. And there's been rumors for years that there was going to be a movie about this. Like a couple of people have had the option. I think a couple of people have. And right now you can see like fan trailers on YouTube if you Google movie Coldest Winter Ever. So one day we might get that treat. But for now, Winter, welcome to the list. Next up, Gone Girl by Gillian Flynn. Description. On a warm summer morning in North Carthage, Missouri, it is Nick and Amy Dunn's 5th wedding anniversary. Presents are being wrapped and reservations are being made when Nick's clever and beautiful wife disappears. Husband of the year, Nick isn't doing himself any favors with cringe-worthy daydreams about the slope and shape of his wife's head. But passages from Amy's diary reveals the alpha girl perfectionist could have put anyone dangerously on edge. Under mounting pressure from the police and the media, as well as Amy's fiercely doting parents, the town golden boy parades an endless series of lies, deceits, and inappropriate behavior. Nick is oddly evasive, and he's definitely bitter. But is he really a killer? So, like The Beautiful and the Damned, this book is about Nick and Amy. So Amy is not really a full protagonist. However, Amy is all up in the narrative from the second you pick up the book. And even if it's from Nick's point of view, it's really about her. And so I would say that she does qualify for the list. Now, there's a reason that this book was named one of the most influential books of the decade. I mean, it is fiercely and exceptionally crafted. And Gillian Flynn did an equally excellent job crafting the screenplay. But if I had to sum up the Nick and Amy saga in one sentence, it would be this: a malignant narcissist and her idiot empath. A trauma bond story. Yep. Yep. And the interesting thing is, I know women like Amy. That is the other thing about reading this book. If you know anybody who is like Amy, you are just like, oh my gosh, yes. Woo! Oh my goodness, yes, Jillian, yes. I was there for every page of it, and that is why Amy and Gone Girl made the list. And the last book of part 1 of my most addictive reads, Scandalous Women edition. Oh, I might not have mentioned that this was part 1. Yeah, there'll be a part 2 next week. So another part is coming. But this is the last book of part 1. And that is The Valley of the Dolls by Jacqueline Suzanne. So I'm not going to start this off with a description. I'm actually going to start it off with a passage from a Vanity Fair article on Jacqueline Suzanne. At 3:30 a.m. on December 25th, 1962, Jacqueline Suzanne, a fading TV actress with an unemployed husband, a son in a mental hospital, and a lump in her right breast, began to scribble in a notebook. "This is a bad Christmas," she wrote. "Irving has no job. I am going to the hospital. I don't think I have cancer. I have too much to accomplish. I can't die without leaving something big. I'm Jackie. I have a dream. I think I can write. Let me live to make it." She was 44 years old and, well, she made good on that dream. That first book was The Valley of the Dolls, and it was registered in the Guinness Book of World Records for best-selling novel of all time at 30 million copies sold. And as an author, Jacqueline Suzanne will become the richest self-made woman in America. So now, the description. Anne, Neely, and Jennifer become best friends as struggling young women in New York City trying to make their mark. Eventually, they climb their way to the top of the entertainment industry only to find that there's no place left to go but down into the Valley of the Dolls. So I read this book in college and picked it up again in my 30s, and let me tell you, it was equally as delicious a read. And one thing that I think makes it so rich is the setting. It spans 20 years from the 1940s to the 1960s. The characters are bucking a very traditional system, trying to make it in the entertainment industry, for each has their own reasons, and it really seems like it's all gonna work out until it doesn't. But this book is salacious, it's scandalous, it's luxurious, it is everything that you want in a Scandalous Woman read. I mean, it is everything. There's money, there's intrigue, there's backstabbing. It has all the things. It has all the things. So Jacqueline Suzanne wrote 3 bestsellers, and I've read all of them. They each have their own delectable flavor, but none are as tasty as The Valley of the Dolls. So welcome Jen, Neely, and Anne to the list. So that's it for my most addictive books of all time, Scandalous Woman edition. Part 1. All books are linked in the description, and right now Audible Plus is running 3 months free, and that means you get 1 credit per month to pick any title from their premium selection, plus unlimited listening to select audiobooks, Audible originals, podcasts, and more. And I have a link for that in the description too. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next week for Most Addictive Reads, Scandalous Woman, Part 2.